This is the CarterCast, the pre-engagement show for dating couples, designed to make engagement ring shopping easy, understandable, and fun. You can get the 4 C's anywhere, but only here can you get the 5th C, called Carter. I'm Josh. This is CGA GG, current president of the AGS, and Jack Lewis Jewelers CEO, John Carter.
Hello.
John Carter, welcome to your own show.
My own show, thank you.
Welcome to your own show.
Yes.
And we should say, special episode, that this is your birthday. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
To you.
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll be doing
Quite a way to kick this one off.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
We'll be doing lots of general opening episode things today, kind of talking about what the show is going to be, why we're doing it, a little bit about who we are as well. So I guess just to start, what is this? What is this show that we're doing here in your vision for it?
Well, you know, we've talked about doing this for several years.
Yep.
We wanted to have some sort of a version of this because we feel like our strength at Jack Lewis is that we're a very approachable, fun store, which I think is indicated through some of our marketing efforts, which of course you're the genius behind that. And really what we try to do, it's probably the only time I'll call you a genius in this podcast, so you're welcome. And so enjoy from here on out.
One per segment.
That's it, okay. No, that's too many. But so what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people that buying a diamond at the very minimum, or just shopping for jewelry in general, should be fun, right?
Yeah.
It should not be you're about to spend hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars, and whatever that is, it should be a process where you walk in and you felt what a novel concept, that you should feel good about that process. And I think sometimes our industry has made it confusing, we've made it befuddling, we've made it scary, and we've made it so people sometimes don't want to walk through the door.
Right.
And so these conversations, I want to be very honest. I want it to, address various topics, everything from diamonds to whatever you and I decide are things of the day, or what customers maybe ask us to talk about. I think it's just a great way for us to have honest conversations with potential jewelry customers.
I think we talked about wanting to do it this format, this kind of long form, podcast sort of format, because of some of the things you're saying, that there's a lot of things out there on the internet about diamond shopping, diamond buying, whatever. And I think that the longer conversation about it, I hope, over the course of these episodes will allow us to just be very open, very transparent, like you said, talks about some things that maybe you wouldn't get from just another clip that you'd see on YouTube somewhere else. So the idea to do kind of a long form show with this, I think, was kind of one of the core ideas that we wanted to do, just to give us more space to expand on some of the things you mentioned. So that's kind of what this will be. It'll be kind of an interview-ish sort of thing, where you'll be the expert, and I'll ask the questions, and I will, I will try to kind of play the role of the person who doesn't really know much, and that won't be difficult for me because even though we've worked together for a while, I still don't know nearly as much. I don't know nearly anything. But I hope that that'll help me kind of approach it from a layman, from a customer's perspective, from somebody who would be asking some of the same questions that a customer at the counter would be asking. And hopefully, along the way, that will, again, create an open, transparent conversation between us that will be helpful to the people watching that. So
yeah, I think there should be a little something in these conversations for everybody, regardless of what stage of life they're in or what they're looking for. Should be something that we can use this as a reference, maybe just as a way for them to kick off their search or to start a conversation.
Yep. So that's the what, kind of long form conversation about all aspects of engagement jewelry. Primarily, we're going to stick as best we can to engagement jewelry, diamonds, that kind of idea. So who is this show for? As we look at a target, like who do we think will get the most benefit out of this? Who's it for? Who's it not for? In your estimation?
I mean, it could be for somebody that is actually shopping. Let's say you're somebody that's shopping for a diamond. Maybe you're at that stage of life where you're looking to get engaged. Maybe you're at that stage of life where you want to buy something special for an anniversary, or for your mom, or it could be the beautiful thing about my business is that for the most part, people come to us to celebrate happy occasions, almost exclusively. And so we're blessed to be able to help them find symbols to help them express that at that particular moment in their lives.
I think too that from my perspective, again, being the role of kind of the customer, the layman, the person who's trying to just learn from you almost live as the cameras are rolling. Like that's kind of how I'm trying to approach that. I'm hoping that we'll get just the novice, just inexperienced noob sort of person who doesn't know anything about diamonds or engagement rings, that will be able to say something that they will find helpful toward, like you said, toward becoming a collector or just buying their first diamond engagement ring for their girlfriend. So that kind of new rookie doesn't know anything about diamonds at all, just knows they love the person in their life and they want to marry them, right? That kind of thing. So hopefully we can keep it there. So I don't expect that this will become too overly insidery, too overly geeky. Try to keep the bar for entry a little bit low, I think, in terms of who can approach it. And so if you get too geeked out, I'll
just smack
reel you back.
That's fine.
Reel you back. Or I'm sure there'll be many times where you'll say some kind of jargon and I'll be like, okay, what is that? I don't know what that is.
The thing about what I do is that it can get very technical and it can get very geeky, but it can get so technical and so geeky that even somebody like me who's done this for 25 years, it might like get even too technical and geeky for me. I mean, there are people sometimes I have to go and ask, I have to ask diamond questions to the scientists in our industry sometimes, or colored stones and things like that. I'm constantly learning those things. And that's the thing about gems and jewelry is people will say to me, well, I don't know anything about this. Well, why would you?
Right.
You don't do it every day. And it's not that it's complicated enough where there are scientists behind the research and development of what we do. They're finding new gemstones. They're discovering gem treatments. They're acting as detectives to find some of those things that are happening that haven't been disclosed yet, so that you can walk into a jewelry store and find exactly what it is and know exactly what it is that you're buying. So again, we're not in too much of a danger of this getting way over people's heads because quite frankly, if we're over their heads, we're probably over my head on some of it too. So we're just going to talk about really what's important as I see it, as John Carter sees it, as Jack Lewis Jewelers sees things, and really just to be here to help and hopefully to educate, have some fun. I mean, you and I have jokes at each other's expense for all the years that we've known each other. I don't think
there'll be many Anchorman references throughout the course.
We do not have a conversation when we don't reference Ron Burgundy, and now there's cameras, so there's bound to be that. Just don't put anything on the teleprompter that you don't want me to read.
That's true. We will read it. So talk about the what, talk about the who's it for. Let's a little bit more about the why. Why are we doing this show? Maybe the way that we want to do it. You've already hit on a little bit, but I guess a little bit about how it ties into what we try to do here at Jack Lewis overall, primarily the focus on meaning. How do you think that kind of ties into why we're trying to do this?
I think that, at least in my experience of all the years that I've been doing this, is that it's one thing for somebody to come in and say, I have an anniversary and I'm just going to take that. It's another thing for somebody to come in and say, I'm looking for something for our 25th anniversary and I want it to be impactful. I want it to be meaningful. And here's all the little meanings behind it that I want this piece to represent. Okay, now that's a separate conversation that we have with somebody, because now we have to sit down and really kind of get into the why they walked in the door and why. And we love that. I mean, those are the conversations we love to have, because we could all be doing other things. We could all go work in other industries, but to be here and help somebody that walks in the door that wants to celebrate 25 years of being in love, right? I mean, that like gives you chills just to say it. And that's not lip service here. I mean, we truly, that's why we do what we do. And so that takes an entirely different level of conversation and some digging. And when that person walks out the door, I feel like they got so much more out of the experience than the person that just walked in and said, I'll take that. And that is how, for us, it's all about relationship building with our clients, because it means the world to us when they had such a good experience that they not only go home and leave us a great review online or any of the things that we do as consumers nowadays, but when they go home and they tell people that they had such a good experience at Jack Lewis that they now insist on walking new customers through the door. I mean, that's why. That is the long version of why we do this, because to answer your question, this is what we do every day anyway. So, this might as well be out there for our customers to view, maybe even before they become our clients, before they walk through the door.
Well, and like you said earlier, that there's a lot of this business that can get technical. We'll talk about this maybe a little bit later, but I remember when I was diamond shopping, I didn't know anything about it. And there was a level of intimidation that I felt walking into a jewelry store, certainly an independent jewelry store. I'm sure we'll talk about that in episodes too. Sometimes it's just easier to go to the mall and just float around, right? But so to come into a place like this, I wasn't sure what I was going to be asked, right? I didn't know anything. I was going to take advantage of me. Like I have no idea because I'm just so inexperienced in that area. And so but like you just said, the reason that I walked in is because I love somebody and I want to marry her, right? Mm-hmm. And so if through this show, we can help people with some of the technical stuff, right? Help them understand a little bit more about what all that is before they come here. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll feel more encouraged to come in the door. And when they do, they'll be able to focus just on what this means, right? To what you're saying. So they don't feel, like they need to know what color and clarity and all that stuff means. But they can just really focus on finding the piece that they think symbolizes and represents their relationship. Mm-hmm. And like you said, that's what you guys love to do anyway. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's part of the why of this is maybe removing some obstacles that other people might have, some of that threshold resistance that other people might feel before they walk into a place like this the first time, because it is such an unusual industry. Diamonds, jewelry, don't know much about it. If we can break down some of that wall so that they can just come in and feel good about it and focus on why they're here,
right,
then we've probably succeeded with this.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this probably specifically when we get into diamonds. But you and I have talked about this over the years that every jewelry store battles the same thing. They battle threshold resistance, right? They battle getting people through that door. Mm-hmm. And part of it we've done to ourselves, but also part of it is that we live in a society where we all believe we can be experts on what we can Google. And jewelry and diamonds and color stones in particular do not work that way. You do not have the time to become enough of an expert where you can walk in the store and know more than the professional at the counter showing it to you, or even as much if you're at a properly educated and credentialed jewelry store, which is obviously where I would want to spend my money. You want to make sure that person knows more about it than you do. Right. Exactly. And therefore, so the conversation that we hear so often is, well, people walk in there embarrassed. They say, I just don't know anything about this. Again, why would you?
Right.
I mean, this is what we do every day.
Yep.
We're here to know those things. So you don't have to. We'll pass it along, and then you decide what's important and where you want to spend your money.
In addition to all that, I think the other reason why we wanted to do this, there's a lot of misconceptions about this industry, I think, that many people have. You go on Reddit or the internet for any amount of time, and you'll find people talking about all kinds of things regarding this industry. And I think that throughout the course of the show, we're going to tackle some of those topics head on and do it transparently and openly, and just really try to clear up some misconceptions, some myths that might be out there. So that's, again, I think part of this too is setting the record straight on some things. But
exploring it from all sides, because there is always any misconception or myth was always started for some reason.
Yep.
It's not always complete garbage. There has to be some smoke to that fire, right? So
we're not
here to avoid any of those things.
Yes.
But like you said, we'll have a very frank conversation about
we're not here to shill for the diamond industry just because. We'll have an honest conversation about it and see where the chips fall.
Yep.
So how is this different? So we did the what, did the who, did the why. How do you think this would be different from anything else that is out there, regarding this topic on YouTube, the internet?
Well, I mean, first of all, it has me. So right away, that's better for everybody.
Well, it's certainly different
for everybody. So
better or worse will be.
So that's 90% of it, I would say. And I mean, do I really need to? You want me to give other reasons?
We can move on.
No, mostly it's just me, but also it has you. Also, that's like another 5%.
Yes.
I'm 90. You're 5,
right. Uh-huh.
And the remaining 5 would be that it's not. We're not doing this really. It's not. I mean, you and I have been doing this together for a long time, and by this I mean creating a message that we want people to know about Jack Lewis Jewelers, right?
Yeah.
And it was all based on, you asked me years ago, you said, what do you want your store to be, right? Do you want to be, and we decided that day, which is a conversation that I've quoted many times to colleagues and friends over the years, because it was a life-changing moment for me, was we decided at that moment that we wanted to be the store that understands the meaning behind what we do.
Yep.
And it permeates everything behind what we do. It permeates training with my sales team. It's behind everything that we think about when we're buying a diamond, when we're buying a new line of jewelry for the store.
Yep.
And as long as that ties back to that message. And so this is different from that because it's not a marketing message.
No.
It's a conversation. Kind of. I mean, you've said to me for years that this store should be a reality show. And it really should. I mean, and we've done some versions of those things throughout the years. And I think that that our fans and our clients and friends in town, and even kind of on a national level, have come to know us for. This is different from that because this will be, as you said earlier, it's a frank conversation about things, and it might be some is not sobering. It's just breaking down the nuts and bolts of what could be considered, in some cases, complicated topics, and proving that it's really just not.
Yeah. Well, and this too, when this episode goes up, I mean, and future ones, it's going to be one of 10 million that's on YouTube, right, and Facebook and internet. So I think,
but it'll only be the only one with you and me.
Yeah, it will be. Well, that
is unique,
and that's 5%. I'm 5% of it.
Where it's going to be called John and Josh drinking coffee.
the after show, post show. Hopefully, we can give you some answers beyond what you can Google, right? I think that's kind of the point, right? Is that you can Google the 4 C's. You can Google anything about diamonds. You can find almost any answer on whatever topic. Hopefully, that through your credibility, which we'll talk about in a little bit, hopefully our back and forth, which hopefully can be transparent and clear, hopefully we'll be able to provide something that's a little better, hopefully a lot better than what people can just Google elsewhere. And they'll hopefully come to this sort of a thing, this sort of a show for answers on diamonds and engagement rings if they're looking for something, if they're in that phase of their life. They'll find something like this maybe more valuable than whatever they can just Google real quick. So hopefully that's how it's different. Plus, we're going to be fearless in what we talk about. So hopefully that'll be compelling to people as well.
Yep.
To that end, let me switch gears and just kind of give a quick overview of some of the upcoming episodes. I'll just kind of read through a big long list. We have a long list of upcoming episodes that we may tackle during the show. I'll just kind of read off some titles, get you to say a quick thing about them, and then we'll move on. But just to give the people the flavor of what's coming up, what's coming up on the CarterCast. Next episode, basically, you're going to try to sell me a diamond. So we're going to go through.
I'm pretty good at it.
We'll see. I mean, I may turn you down, and then
I sold you your first one.
I know. So, I don't need another one. So we'll see how that goes. So we'll go through that episode. Basically, that'll be hopefully a nice tutorial as I try to go back and forth with you and ask you some questions that hopefully other people would be asking as we see that. Yep. Is cut really the most important C? We'll talk about that one as we go through the 4 C's. Probably do a whole episode on cut and just what there is about that.
Well, you indicated in the beginning that actually Carter was the most important C.
I said you were the 5th C.
5th. Oh yeah, you did say.
Yeah, important is relative.
Yeah, no, cut is for sure 100% the most important factor when buying a diamond.
You'll have to convince me. I don't believe you.
Okay.
Grading reports.
Have you not been paying attention all these years? What have you been doing? What have you been doing with my money?
Not paying attention. Okay. I've been spending it. Grading reports. Why should we care about all this mathematical gobbledygook? Like, we'll probably, because again, if you bring out a grading report, it's going to look Greek. I'm going to have no idea what that is. So we'll do some of those episodes. Like, why should you care about these highly technical things? Yeah. And that's, we talked about that a little bit earlier. We go through some of that.
Yeah, and that's a double-edged sword because we'll get into that. You should both care about the grading report and remind yourself that you're not buying a piece of paper. You're buying a billion-year-old diamond.
Yes,
so
it is the paradox.
We'll talk about that specifically because that's a really good thing to talk about.
Find out if you're fancy. Fancy-shaped stones.
We should just call that you fancy.
You fancy.
You fancy.
When I first started working with you, I had no idea what fancy meant. I thought it was people just talking about, ooh, that's fancy. I didn't realize it was a technical way to describe those sorts of stones. So we'll do a fancy shaped episode. Gemstones to avoid if you don't want a diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. There are some people who they want to go different directions these days.
Right. So we can help do that too.
Right. But there are some stones they shouldn't do, I would imagine. Right.
For sure.
We'll talk about those.
Yeah.
Should you buy a diamond online? We'll talk about that, the online nature of this business and how that's happening. Don't they all look the same? I mean, don't all diamonds, it's just they're all the same, right? I don't know anything about diamonds, and I'm going to come in here and I look at the case and they just look all the same. How are they really different, right? That's something we can talk about because I know you have strong opinions on that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good conversation. I mean, we can talk about it, but it's one of these conversations that people will walk in with that perception until they actually look at diamonds.
Yep.
Because it's quite different to look at it on your computer screen or read about it on a piece of paper, but to actually say this one's a J color and this one's an E color, and then
Right.
You don't need to be an expert.
Right.
Yes, it looks different.
Right. Real talk about diamond prices. I thought we'd do an episode about that. Just get into it. Just real transparently, like how much are you ripping us off? How much are you not? How much does it cost you? Right. I mean, those are the kind of things that, again, as a customer, I have no idea how these things are valued or priced. So hopefully an episode like that would be helpful to people.
It's one of the things that muddies the waters.
Yeah.
Diamonds. It's also, to toot our own horn, because you've been a big part of that as well, is it's one of the reasons why we created our programs of Jack Lewis Flames, Jack Lewis Sizzles, and Jack Lewis Sparks, right? Which we'll talk about in future episodes. But it's a way to show them tiering of prices, right? I think that we've been one of the most innovative stores in the country because we've said that same thing. Like, why pay for stuff you're not seeing?
Right.
We've kind of narrowed it down to these are the important things. This one's a perfect cut grade. This one's, pretty far off, but it's less money.
And then maybe an episode just on like the state of the industry address, just general survey of how you see what's going on, big picture trends for the diamond industry, engagement stuff in general. That could be a fun episode to do. Just get your thoughts with your experience and all that.
We could do that multiple times a year because it changes.
It changes a lot.
From year to year.
In addition to the product stuff, we'll do episodes featuring guest experts. I would think too. That'd be fun. Have somebody sitting in the middle of us so that we don't get too
fisticuffs. Have some designer friends on here.
Yeah, I don't know how to say this, but he's kind of a big deal. Fairly connected. So you can probably get, various people to come in and join the show and talk about, their experiences with proposing or with engagements or that kind of stuff. So
I feel like the things that I've learned in the last decade in particular is because I've surrounded myself by some of the smartest people in the industry. And
well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I said in the industry. That's like diamond people and stuff like that. You're smart too, but
not in the industry.
I gave you a compliment in the beginning.
One per segment. All right, good.
Don't let it go to your head. And and I've learned a lot from being around some of these designers and manufacturers and diamond cutters, and so having some of them on the show, I think would be you asked earlier, is how would this be different?
Yeah.
This is a great way that this would be different. Yeah.
And then in addition to the product stuff, guest stuff, storytelling stuff, we'll hit the controversial things. So diamond myths believed by skeptical cynics.
Yeah.
I want to do a whole episode devoted to that.
Yeah. Or two.
Yep. Are diamonds really valuable, or are they just marketing hype? Right. We'll talk about that. Talk about the intrinsic worth of a diamond, how you explain all that to people. Blood diamonds. Are blood diamonds still a thing? I saw a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio a while back, and what's up with that? So, again, we want to tackle
serious stuff.
Yeah, we want to tackle things like that head on and just be honest about it and have those episodes. How a diamond really does get here. So you see a diamond in our case. What happened? Like, where did it come from? How did that journey work? How did that process work? And then maybe the biggest episode that I'm looking forward to is real talk about natural diamonds versus not natural diamonds. That it's a big thing, I think, going on right now in the industry, from what I can tell. And I very much want to get into that whole topic with you because I think it's really fascinating, and I don't know much about it still. And I think through maybe my questions that I would ask you, hopefully we could all learn a lot about your take on that whole area of synthetic, lab grown, what words we're supposed to use to even talk about that.
Yeah, it's confusing.
So that's something that,
and as you know, I have very definitive opinions on it, and it's not by. It all stems from not a belief in not saying somebody should buy a laboratory grown diamond or somebody should not buy a laboratory grown diamond. I'm not here to judge that. It's that I feel like a client needs to 100% understand everything that they buy. Right. And I think that there's still so much confusion in regards to that topic. So that would be, I'm very much looking forward to that as well. That'll be a great conversation.
Let's kind of go towards the end of this first episode where, who are we? Like, who are you and I? Why should people listen to us? We've kind of gone over the content stuff, what this is going to be and why it's important and what are some episodes, but why they shouldn't listen to me for sure. Cause I'm nobody, but like why, well, let's start here. How do you and I know each other? What's our story?
Well, we met oddly enough at this very counter.
Yes, we did.
Right? You were a young man then.
23.
23 years. Oh my gosh. 23 years old. I'm a little older than you.
6 years older than me.
Oh, well, I'm glad you know.
When is your birthday? I did the math today because it happens to be your birthday.
All right,
Happy birthday again.
Thank you very much.
all
So we met at this diamond counter. You
Did.
were a 23-year-old punk that didn't know anything.
Correct. Accurate.
And we just had a nice conversation, and we bonded, we clicked, we kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, as you broke away and did your own marketing company, you had kind of hit me up a couple of times before I had owned the store.
Right.
And if you remember, I believe it was the day that I bought the store that you and I signed a contract together to promote the new store.
Yeah.
Right?
March 2011.
You and I become pretty good friends over the years because of that too. We spent a lot of time together. I value more than you can know what you've done for my business, and it's not just in terms of what it's grown, because my team has everything to do with that, right? As you know, because I'm not here every day, and I know that my store's
you're not.
in good hands.
Absentee landlord.
Just I'm golfing and sleeping, and
On your yacht.
Yachting.
Yacht. I appreciate you saying that. The thing I remember about you though is back to when I was that punk kid at this counter buying a diamond is, I was young and I didn't have a lot of money, and I knew that my girlfriend at the time, I knew that she wanted a princess cut stone. That's the most of what I knew. And I also knew about how much money I had, and it wasn't a ton, it wasn't a lot. Working with you, I didn't feel pressured to spend a lot more, nor did I feel condescended to or belittled because of the size of the stone that I was buying. Very early on, you were focused more on me and my girlfriend and like what we wanted and like kind of why I was buying it. And it was just a very refreshing experience to, again, when I had that intimidation coming in here of not knowing what I could afford and whether she was going to like it, whether it was big enough. Like you hear all these things you're supposed to think about as a dude. And I remember you put me at ease with all that, and it became very much not about that very quickly. And I was able to tell you that she wanted a solitaire princess cut, and from there it was just focused more on that, and you didn't care how big it was or how much I spent. Like it was a very good experience, and that was kind of the moment I was like, man, if I ever get a chance to work with this guy in some capacity, I would like to, because that's the kind of store I wanted to be a part of in some way.
And the beautiful thing about the world of diamonds is you can spend as much or as little as you want. You just have to walk into it with reasonable expectations. You can't say, I have $2,500 to spend and I want to buy a 2-carat. Right. That's probably not going to work. But you say, I have $2,500 to spend. Well, we're going to help you find the best diamond that $2,500 can buy at that particular time and make you feel like you walked out with some real good value, because you're going to. And that's the way that we have our diamonds laid out.
Absolutely.
I think it makes sense.
So that's just a little bit about us. What about you? Like as you get talking about some of these technical things, why should anyone out there listen to John Carter? Like what's your credentials? Like what's your story? What letters do you have after your name? I read a bunch of those off at the beginning in the intro. So what are those? What's CGA and what's GG? And like what's your story about why what you says matter?
So I started here in high school. I stayed all through college, went to Illinois State, and I had left for a couple of years, and I've gone and I was in the watch industry, right? I worked for a Swiss watch company. And when I came back, I was kind of thrust into this role as a partner of Jack Lewis. And so I had to learn all new skill sets, right? As a sales rep on the road for a watch company, I was responsible for John Carter and growing my territory. When I came here, now I was responsible for HR and for marketing and for, and watches kind of took a back seat. And I'm a watch guy at heart. Right? Like that's how I cut my teeth in this business. And now I became a diamond guy and a colored stone guy through necessity. And so one of the things that I very quickly did, John Woolman and I at the time signed me up through classes through the Gemological Institute of America, because we felt like, okay, probably good for you to get your GG, which is graduate gemologist. Okay. It's a series of classes. You can go to one of their campuses in Carlsbad or in New York, and you can take the classes, about a 6-month program, to become somebody who's credentialed to know all about gemstones. Okay. Colored diamonds.
Okay. So all gemstones.
Pearls, you name it. Shortly thereafter, we joined the American Gem Society, which we'll talk about probably in future episodes, which is obviously something that's very personally important to me, because it was important to me to grow my GG and become kind of the epitome of a gemologist in America, which is what they classify as a CGA,
Okay.
Certified Gemologist Appraiser.
Okay.
There are 300 and some certified gemologist appraisers in the world.
Okay.
That's the highest title that you can receive in the United States as a gemologist. Why somebody should listen to me versus anybody else, I don't know that I would, I don't know that I would be arrogant enough to say that. I mean,
you would be.
I would be. I would make jokes. But what's important in for conversations like this is to know, as we alluded to earlier, it's important if I was a customer spending thousands of dollars, it would be important to me to know that person probably should know more about that topic than I do. So that's why those things are important to me. And then, of course, my involvement through the American Gem Society, which again we'll talk about, I think is another reason why the shopping at Jack Lewis, whether it be with John Carter or with my wonderful team, is it's at the foundation of everything that we do, which is all about protecting the customer at the counter above our own needs.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah.
Way more than you asked for.
Well, no.
You'll probably have to edit a lot of that.
Cut all that out.
Cut all that. Everything I just said.
Yeah. Just cut all that out, and we'll just go with what I'm doing right now.
Back to Josh.
I mean, my take on why people should listen to you, again, just you care about this business.
Yeah.
You care about people. Like I've seen it. You cared about me, like I talked about earlier. And so you have the certifications, you got the credentials, you have the knowledge. But to me, you're just an honest guy, and I think I hope that comes across on camera to people watching, that they get a sense for, okay, I can trust this guy. I feel like he's gonna give it to me straight and all that. And
I have to sleep at night. That's important to me.
And you've said that a lot
to
me over the years.
This business exists to make a difference in my community, not just my family's life, but in all the families that are represented here with my employees. I've said to you before, I let my head down, not just with the burden of my own children on my mind, but the burden of the children that are part of this business as well. And so sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Sometimes you have to make, but it should always be an honest decision.
Yeah,
is how I feel. And
but
sometimes that's difficult.
But you've said that over the years to me. Like whenever you start a sentence with "this business is about," I've never once heard you finish that sentence by saying "making money."
Yeah, never.
Right. And to me that matters. And that's just, again, being a fly on the wall and being kind of connected to this business over the past 7-8 years. Like it's been refreshing to see that that's true.
I want it to be all those things and to be a profitable
business. Well, of course, yeah, but it doesn't. That's a result of all the other things, And I've always seen that. So to close out most episodes, we want to do something called the Final Facet, which is basically just kind of a transition, almost like a pivot point after we're done with our conversation, where you can just kind of have the final word, and just say something directly into your camera that's kind of an encouragement, maybe some tip about the industry, tip about buying a diamond engagement ring if you're somebody who's looking for it, or just general advice, some kind of encouragement to people who are out there in relationships, like kind of a big picture catch-all that I just thought would be kind of a nice Carter closes kind of word of encouragement to people. So we won't do one of those for this particular episode here up first. We'll start that with the next one.
Man, I was all fired up.
Next time.
Man, I was going to change the world, but never mind. It's your show, Josh. It's just named after me, but whatever.
So we'll do that next time. But that's how I figure we'll close each show.
So what you're saying is the next episode will be a good episode.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is the first episode.
Apologies for this one.
Dude, I was
just told to be here at a certain time, and this guy leads the way.
The first episode, this is the one that we'll look back on and be like, man, we were really young and
amateurs.
We were like really fat and we looked terrible. Why did I wear that shirt? Like that's,
Man, we look like garbage in our 40s. Wait, you're in your 40s.
I'm not in my 40s yet.
Not yet.
I am. It's your birthday, as we've said many times. But yeah, this will be the episode
that's right. On my way.
But yeah, this will be the episode we look back on with trivia questions. Like what type of mug did you have in the first episode? Because we'll have
lovely Las Vegas.
Right, because I'm sure all this will change. The set will likely change and we'll get fun things back here.
I do love Vegas, you get me.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be awesome. Already is fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, for years we've been having these conversations without cameras, so
might
as well have the cameras. I mean, what do we care? This guy's got to set it all up.
Stay tuned for more. It's the first episode of the CarterCast. Hey there.
Thanks for watching us talk to each other. Since you're still here, you should just subscribe. We're reimagining the Jack Lewis Jewelers YouTube channel, so come on this journey with us. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. So do it, and thank you.